My CMS system is hooked to GoDaddy. This process will be similar on almost any large host. That's why I was saying that you guys want to go with the bigger host on this, like GoDaddy. I'm using GoDaddy for this. HostGator, Bluehost, something of that nature, will have a one-click WordPress install. Now, really quickly, I want to show you something. Some differences here. Now, what we're doing here, I want to clarify this. There's two different WordPress not really versions, but what people call WordPress. I want to make sure we're really clear on what we're doing here. I've got my hosting platform pulled up over here, my web host that I've got my Linux hosting here with cPanel. WordPress.com, do not use WordPress.com for your project. WordPress.com is a standalone website building platform like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly. Plug and play, drag and drop. You got to pay monthly for this thing. I do not want you to use WordPress.com. Don't use that. What we're doing is we're installing the guts of WordPress.org. You can download WordPress itself, the actual platform, WordPress. What we're doing is we're installing WordPress itself, the platform, this content management system from WordPress.org on a host system. So the first things first, you have to procure hosting and get a URL. I've got several URLs that I'm just going to be using, and I've got my hosting platform. So once you're logged into your host, then you go to manage. You go to your cPanel. However you need to get to your command panel within your host, you click it. GoDaddy, you just click manage. And what we've got here, I've got my URL that I've got. I'm going to go to cPanel admin for that. And this will pull up my command panel. So what we're going to do in the command panel, and it's going to be slightly different for every different host that you use. Here are the CMS systems. I've got Magneto, WordPress, Joomla, Drupal. I can install any one of these on my host. I'm going to go ahead and choose WordPress. When you choose WordPress, it's going to ask you, what do you want to do with this? I've got a WordPress running already in several installs, but I'm going to go ahead and install this application. All right, so what we're going to do here, this is where it lets you choose. I've got several URLs that I can choose from. I already have a WordPress install running actively under my main URL. So I'm going to install a subdirectory. I'm just going to call it test. Now, normally, what this is going to do is install WordPress in my main URL. Now, you guys, if you're going to install this in a blank host that you've just set up, don't put anything here. You want to leave this directory option blank, and it'll install on your main URL. But again, I've got something already on my main URL, so I'm going to install it in a subfolder. You can install WordPress in a subfolder. This is the latest version, which is fine. Updates. It's going to ask me, do I want to automatically update? It depends. I personally don't like automatic updates for certain things, and I do for others. The default settings are fine for this. Big thing. The big thing is your username and password. So I'm going to set a username and password for this. Now, this username and password are what you will use to log into WordPress every time you build with it. So make sure you make note of what it is. Make sure it's not something that's in the URL. Make sure this is something kind of eclectic and would be hard to secure or hard to figure out. Put your email in here. This is where you'll get updates and things like that from the actual WordPress build itself. The title, this is what goes in the title tag. So if this is like your website to sell hats, so like this will be the best hat on the internet or something. And the website tagline, the title of the website and the tagline on the website. So again, hopefully something related. I'm going to just make up something for this. Now, these are login settings. These are up to you. I would strongly recommend limiting login attempts. WordPress is kind of a target whenever it comes to hacking and things of that nature. So we're going to need some security settings, which we'll get into. This is one of them. Install when you're done. Okay, now this is a password. It's saying I got a password used in a data breach. That doesn't make any difference. Okay, here we go. So this is installing WordPress onto my host. It's actually installing the platform itself, and then the URL. This is really important. Here is my URL. Right here, you can see I've got some stuff already on the web. My URL +/test is the folder I installed it in. Now, whatever folder you installed it in, to get to your WordPress login, you've got to go / after your URL, you put a / wp-admin. You just type that in the URL bar up top. That brings you to your login for WordPress. That's always how you get to your WordPress login. It's your URL / wp-admin. Here is the WordPress admin. Now, I'm going to plug in username and password that I just created. Okay, now this is asking me for a starter template. So WordPress is built on templating. Bootstrap, some of the stuff we used in the last class, in the last user experience or the last web UX class, there are Bootstrap templates. So what WordPress does is it uses PHP to drive CSS and HTML. So you can, now the nice thing is it doesn't really matter what template you choose. What the template affects is the placement of your nav bar, the placement of the content on your pages, and the colors. So each one of these will have a different look and feel. You can look up other ones. There are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of themes you can choose from. It doesn't really matter though, because you can change these after you've already chosen one. I'm going to go ahead and just choose this one, this bento theme, which is fine. And I'm going to click start with this template. So your host may or may not give you these options. It depends. So don't worry about it if you don't get these options right out of the gate. Now, this is going to ask me, what am I going to do? Am I going to provide info? Am I going to write blog posts, display my portfolio? This will change what sections you have in WordPress, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and finish setup on this, though. Okay, so now what we've got here, whenever this installs the template, we have got the WordPress itself. This even shows, this is my website. This look and feel I have got now on my website, which is fantastic. But how do I do any of the things here? This bar up top. When you've installed WordPress, what you do once your WordPress is installed and up and running, or if you've got a theme going, you're going to click on the little W up here on the left. And this is going to take you to the WordPress dashboard. Here's your WordPress dashboard. This is now WordPress up and running on my host. The theme I've got installed is called Bento up here. This bar up top is a quick bar. This lets you get to things quickly in WordPress. Like if I ever want to see my website, I can roll over this. I can roll over visit site. To get back to the dashboard, you always click this little W inside of the WP admin. Right now, on the left here is the important stuff in WordPress. We're only going to do a few things in here today, but this is the important things. Step one, the first things we're going to do here is check your settings. So as soon as we get into WordPress, we check out this dashboard and we go into the general settings here. Why? Because there's a few things we need to look at, like the site title and the tagline. Notice these have been changed. A lot of times this is the case. When you pick a theme, it'll overwrite your site title and your tagline. And this is a really important aspect of SEO. WordPress works really well with Google and SEO. Part of it is because these sections are already carved out. So this section here on the general settings, you want to put a descriptive site title. Again, something obvious that pertains to your site. And again, a tagline will be something like the title, but slightly different. Okay. Pretty important stuff here. The administrator's email, if you ever need to change that, that's inside here. The time settings, things like that. If you wanted the time settings, those are important. Basic login stuff and basic info for your website. But always check your site title and your tagline first to make sure that those are correct. I'm going to save that. Okay, so now that we've got kind of some general stuff set here, usually what I like to do is go in and install several plugins that'll help the functionality of my website. Now, what are plugins? I'm going to click on that section. Plugins are extensible pieces for WordPress. There's a couple of things that come default in WordPress that are not all that useful. That you could probably even delete all of these things out of here. Like Hello Dolly is pretty worthless. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So you can add or delete. I'm going to get this anti-spam thing out of here. You can add or delete plugins. If you click Add New from the plugins section here, there's a whole slew of plugins for WordPress that come up. If you click Popular or Recommended, either one is pretty good. These are really most of the plugins that you'll need to work inside WordPress, depending on what you want to do. So I would strongly recommend right out of the gate installing some of these things. What are they for? You can read them. You can read what they say. These are third party. Again, WordPress itself is an open source platform. A lot of this stuff is. So these are built by third party builders, people outside of WordPress, a lot of these plugins, and they're pieces of code that are worked to increase, that are created to increase functionality of your website. Most of these are no code. So they do all kinds of different stuff. Like for instance, Yoast SEO is a fantastic plugin that helps you improve your SEO, works great with Google. I'm gonna click install on that. I'm gonna scroll down. All kinds of really good stuff in here. Like for instance, if you're doing e-commerce, which we may get into here in a little bit, WooCommerce, it's how you do e-commerce stuff. It's fantastic. Elementor is a web page builder, a drag and drop web page builder that's really, really popular that we may look at here in a little bit to be able to drag and drop functionality. WordFence, awesome security plugin. WordPress is a big target for hackers. I would install a WordPress or a WordFence as a some sort of security plugin would be a good idea. Google Analytics, if you're working with Google Analytics. So going down here, you can kind of see there's lots of different stuff in here that you could use and you could install. It just depends on what you're looking for. So, but what I would recommend is at least the Yoast plugin for SEO. WordFence is a great security plugin. This works pretty well. I'm going to install something called Classic Editor too. Now, I'll show you some different things with Classic Editor in a minute. I'm not going to activate it, but I'm definitely going to install it. So these plugins are installed, but they're not activated yet. So you can install all kinds of plugins, but they don't do anything until you activate them. I'm going to click on the plugins tab over on the left here again. So these plugins are latent now in my website. They're back here on the back end, but they haven't been activated yet. So I'm going to just go ahead and leave these here on the back end, and then I'll activate them later. So that's usually the first step, is you install your crucial plugins. Second step, more important step, pages, the pages palette. Notice by default, there's some stuff already in here because of the theme that we picked, okay? This palette is how you make the pages in your theme. Now, these pages I may want to use, I may not want to use. There's already one labeled home, which is pretty useful. Maybe I won't have a blog page. I'm going to go ahead and trash that. So from this section, this pages section, you can add pages, you can remove pages, you can edit pages. I'm going to trash this blog page, though. I don't want a blog page. Food page, not useful for me. Trash. All right, privacy policy, trash that too. Reservations, trash. Okay. I've got my home page. That's fine. I'm going to use this. Now, this is the front page of my website by default. My theme has picked this as the front page of my website. You got to have pages already created in this palette to be able to pick your front page. And I'll show you how to do this in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and make the other pages for my website. Let's say this is a typical website that's got some typical pages, an about page, a contact page, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and make those right now. I'm going to click Add New. When you click Add New, this takes you to the page creation section of WordPress. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, there's two different ways that you can make pages. You can make pages through the Gutenberg editor, which is what shows up now by default. Now, the reason I'm showing you this first, this is the new editor in WordPress. It's not super new, but it's the one that's by default. You can pick your page layouts. You can pick most used page layouts. Ooh, look, there's even like an about page layout or a contact page layout. They're templates. Or I could use a blank page. This is pretty slick. So if I wanted an about page, this to be my about page, I can choose the template here and it will create this template for me automatically. Or I can add a blank page, which is what I'm going to do now. This is the Gutenberg editor. This is your page builder. So this is where your content goes. I've created a page. I'm going to add a title to it first, though. Every page has to have a title. Say this is the about page. Once I've plugged in a title, I can then click Publish right out of the gate. I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is all I'm going to do to make my pages right now. I'm not going to put any content on these pages or work with the content yet. I'm just going to make the pages themselves. Publish. Okay. Here we go. So now it's published. I can even look at this page. If I right-click this and open a new tab, I can look. This is my about page. Boom. So I've got, here's my tagline. Here's my about page. Now the home page even has a link to it. Here, if I click home. Now I don't have a link to my about page that I've just created. I got to do that later. I can hit back, but my about page is there. So now I'm going to go back in and go back up to the top, and I'm going to click my little WordPress tab again. Takes me back to the Pages palette. Add New. Contact. Let me do blank page. I can maybe even use the template. I like the template for the contact page, but I'm gonna go ahead and do blank page. So what I do usually, and you kind of see where I'm going with this, is I will make the default blank sections first: about, contact, home. Let's say we add, maybe I have a services page. Publish. This is why WordPress is so great. It allows you to knock out this stuff really quickly. I have now created the pages for my website. Say these are the 4 pages that I want in my website. Perfect. They're built. They're ready to go. To make this the menu, now one of the things that you're going to see with WordPress right out of the gate, the menu's not built. By default, the menu doesn't work in a lot of WordPress stuff. So after you go to the pages palette and build your pages, and you've got your pages latent in here that you can always edit, you can then go to the appearance section. The appearance section has all kinds of different stuff in it. This is the look and feel of your website. So the theme that I installed is inside here, which I'll get into in a minute. How to customize that theme. Also the menu. So if I click menus, I can now build a menu. Now, by default, with the theme that I've created, there'll be some menus in here already built. You can just ignore those, or you can use the default menus that you want. This one has 2 already built: a footer menu and a primary menu. I'm going to select the primary menu. If you don't have one, you can always make a new one, create a new menu from up top. But I'm going to select the primary menu since there's already one. This has some pages that have been invalidated in it. I deleted these. If you remember, when I first created the site, I deleted these pages. I'm going to go ahead and remove the dead pages. Now my home page is already in here. These are all the pages in my website. I can view all, I can search for pages, I can see the most recent ones. I'm going to go ahead and add services, contact, and about. I'm going to add these to my menu. Bingo. Check it out. Now this is my menu. I can drag and drop. Maybe I do home, about, services, and contact. You can make sub pages. Maybe I want my services to be a sub menu of my about page. Maybe not. Drag and drop. Where is it located? Is it your primary menu? Make sure this is checked if it's going to be your primary menu. When you're done, you hit save. And now if I go out and I can control click this to launch my website, check it out. Here's my menu. My menu's been built. Now these pages are blank, okay, but they're ready for content.